Circle geometry exam preparation. By now you should have covered the following topics in this section. Calculating the length of an arc, the formula for which is a over 360 times pi d, where a is the angle of the sector or the angle at the center of the circle and d is the diameter. Calculating the area of a sector, a over 360 times pi r squared, as pi r squared is the area of a circle. And problem solving in compound shapes, where we look at compound shapes and split those into simpler shapes, work out perimeters and areas of the simpler shapes, and add those together to find the perimeter or the area of a compound shape. This topic will cover the types of question you are likely to see in your exam. Our first question is from 2019, paper 1, question 4, and is for 3 marks. The diagram below shows a sector of a circle centre C. The radius of the circle is 30 centimeters. Calculate the length of the major arc AB. Take pi equal to 3.14. So as the diagram shows, the angle for this sector is 240 degrees and we have a radius of 30 centimeters. Now the first thing to note, this is a paper 1 question, so it's non-calculator. And as stated, we have to take pi equal to 3.14. It is an arc length question, so the formula for arc length is a over 360 times pi d. So let's jump in to solve this question. So arc length is equal to a over 360 times pi d, so we need the diameter. Now we should know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So let's plug in the values that we have been given. So this is a is equal to 240, so 240 over 360 times pi times 2 times 30, the radius, will give us the diameter. So now before we do the multiplication, as this is a non-calculator question, we should make our lives a little bit easier by simplifying as much as possible. So if we look at the 240 over 360, both of these can be divided by 120, so let's simplify or cancel these down. This gives us 2 over 3 times 60 times pi. Again, we should look to simplify. We can divide the 3 and the 60 by 3, and this gives us 2 times 20 times pi, which is equal to 40 times the 3.14. We have to use a simpler multiplication for us to carry out, and this equals 125.6 centimeters to 1 decimal places, which is our answer. Our next question is from 2015, paper 2, question 10, and is for 4 marks. The pendulum of a clock swings along an arc of a circle centre O. The pendulum swings through an angle of 65 degrees, travelling from A to B. The length of the arc AB is 28.4 centimeters. Calculate the length of the pendulum. And we're given a diagram which shows the angle at the centre of the circle is 65 degrees. If we aren't given a diagram in a question such as this, the first thing we should look to do is draw a diagram, but we have one here, so let's move forwards. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, what do we need to find? So we've been asked to calculate the length of the pendulum. As we've been told that the pendulum swings along an arc of a circle, in effect we've been asked to find the radius of the circle. Okay, so let's mark that on our diagram. We're looking for the radius r. Now what information do we have? What information have we been given? We've been given the arc length, AB, is equal to 28.4 centimeters. And we've also been given the arc angle, or the sector angle, which is equal to 65 degrees. So we have a formula which links these values together. Arc length equals a over 360 times pi d. Now the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So knowing all this information, we know we can rearrange this formula or change the subject of this formula to calculate the radius. So let's do that. Arc length equals a over 360 times pi d, where d is equal to 2r. So arc length equals a over 360 times pi times 2r. Now let's plug in the values we have. 28.4 equals 65 over 360 times pi times 2 times r, the radius, which is what we're looking to find. Okay, now we want to change the subject or rearrange this equation to solve for r. So let's multiply by the 360 and divide by the 65. This gives us 360 times 28.4 over 65 equals pi times 2r. Getting r on its own, we get 360 times 28.4 all over 65 times pi times 2. This is a calculator question. We plug all these values into our calculator, and this gives us r equals 25 centimeters. Our next question is from 2016, paper 1, question 3 for 3 marks. The diagram shows a sector of a circle centre C. The radius of the circle is 20 centimeters and angle ACB is 45 degrees. Calculate the area of the sector. Take pi to be equal to 3.14. Now this is paper 1. It's a non-calculator paper, hence the reason why we have to take pi equal to 3.14. We have been asked to calculate the area of a sector. Now the formula for the area of a sector is sector area equals A over 360 times pi r squared. So let's use that formula and plug in the values that we have. This equals 45, A is equal to 45 over 360 times pi times r squared, so that's times pi times 20 squared. Now before we do any multiplication here, we want to make our lives a little bit easier by simplifying this down, cancelling out and simplifying this calculation. So if we look at the 45 over 360, we can see that 45 is a common factor. So let's divide top and bottom by 45, and cancelling down we get 1 over 8 times pi times 400, which is the 20 squared. Now again, we can make our lives a little bit easier by dividing the 400 by 8. So this becomes 50 times pi, which is 3.14. Multiplying these out, we get 157 centimeters squared. So as we can see, in non-calculator questions such as this, we should look to cancel down and simplify our multiplication as much as possible before we actually look to multiply out. Our final question is from 2017, paper 2, question 14, and is for 3 marks. The diagram below shows part of a circle, centre O. The radius of the circle is 6.4 centimeters. Major arc AB has length 31.5 centimeters. Calculate the size of reflex angle AOB. So we have to calculate the size of the reflex angle AOB, and we have the major arc length AB, which is equal to 31.5 centimeters. So a reflex angle is an angle greater than 180 degrees. So in effect, we've been asked to find the sector angle. And what information do we have? We have the arc length AB, the 31.5 centimeters, and the radius of the circle, which is 6.4 centimeters. Now we have a formula which links this information together. Arc length equals A, the sector angle, over 360 times pi times the diameter. While we do not have the diameter, we know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay, let's plug in the values that we have into this formula. This gives us arc length 31.5 equals A, the sector angle, the angle we're trying to find, over 360 times pi times 2 times the radius, which is 2 times 6.4. This is 31.5 equal to A over 360 times 12.8 pi. Now we want to rearrange this equation to solve for A. This gives us A is equal to 360 times 31.5 over 12.8 pi. Putting these values into our calculator, as this is a paper 2 question, we get A is equal to 282 degrees. Next steps, section revision and section test. So by now you should have covered all the learned material for this section. You should have stepped through each individual topic's learned material, watching the videos or reading the text to learn about the skills within that topic. You should have stepped through the practice for each topic and continued the practice until you mastered the skills for each individual topic. And you've just completed the exam prep topic for this section. So what's next for you? Okay, you should do the section revision, which is in effect more practice. In this section revision, you will be presented with questions that will cover all skills within this section, and the questions will be at an exam level. As with other practices, the questions will be supported with hints and full work solutions to assist in your learning. Please practice and revise until the system confirms you have mastered all section skills. Once you've mastered, you then move on to the section test. So please take the section test And once you've taken the test, your test will be immediately marked and graded, and you will then be able to review the results of the test. You can step through all the questions that were presented in the test, and full work solutions will be presented. You should study solutions for any questions that you happen to get wrong, and close out any knowledge gaps by revisiting the relevant topics learned in practice areas as required. Once you feel you're ready, you should come back and take the section test again. You should repeat this cycle as many times as required until you consistently achieve a score of 90% or greater in the section test. Remember, the time and effort you put in now will develop your skills and also build the confidence you need to take into your exam. One final note before we close: print off the crib sheet for this section, which summarises all the key skills you learned in this section. You can write your own notes on the back of this crib sheet, and in that way you will have a handy one-page reference for the section as a whole.